Hi everyone! Recently, I released my Google Innovator project, BoostEDU. BoostEDU is a program that supports teachers in transforming their current lessons to reach deeper levels of learning for their students, as well as incorporate more technology within their lessons. So today I really wanted to spend some time talking about and showing some of the key features of the self-assessment section on the website, because that is one that a lot of people are interested in. So I'm going to walk you through the two self-assessments that we have available and how you can use those to support your classroom and your lessons. So first you'll come to the website, and when you come here, there's lots of different tabs, and today we're just going to focus on the self-assessments. So if you click on self-assessments, you'll see there are two that are open and are released. That's the basic and in-depth SAMR self-assessments. And then there are some that are not released yet, but will be released over time. I'm currently working on developing those as well. So the basic SAMR self-assessment is really to give you a quick assessment of what depth of SAMR you are at in your classroom on a whole. Now, this might not be the case for every single day or every single lesson, but looking at it from outside perspective and looking in on what it looks like 90% of the time, where are you at? Now, the in-depth SAMR self-assessment is much more in-depth, and that's where you actually focus on a specific lesson activity project, and you break that one down. You look at it and you see where you're at in SAMR again, and where can you improve. And it also even suggests different ideas and things that you can do in your lessons, as well as tech tools. So the first one we're going to go over is the basic SAMR self-assessment. And you'll input some information, and really this is just for research purposes. It will not be used to email you or spam you in any way, but just information about who you are, your email address, school district, what your role is, and your content area. And when you come in here, there's a few quick directions, and mostly it's just to guide you in this self-assessment process. And the big one being, be honest. These results will only be seen by you if that's what you want. So be honest with yourself and try not to answer the questions so that you assess and place where you want to be, not where you actually are. And then remember that you're evaluating your entire classroom. So try to think about where you are at 90% of the time in your classroom, because sometimes one lesson might be at a greater depth in SAMR and others may not. But try to look at your classroom on a whole and where you're at 90% of that time. Now, when you go into the self-assessment, you'll see 7 different questions. So you'll come in and you'll answer those questions, and it will immediately give you your results. So the first one is about what's your philosophy of technology use? What scenario best describes note-taking, best describes reading, writing strategies, and I'm just clicking randomly right now. What are the ways that students present information? How are topics researched in your classroom, and how are they assessed? So based upon what your classroom looks like when you answer these questions, it will deliver a certain amount of results. So what this will tell you is you're currently at like the augmentation level. And so your next level is to start focusing on modification. So from there, what you're going to do is you're going to start going into the lesson design and start redesigning your lessons. So when you go into that lesson design, you can choose by Google Forms or by a template. Keep your results handy. And one great resource is the resources, ironically. And you can look in here and go, okay, so I am going to look at the SAMR resources for note-taking, and I was at augmentation. So I'm going to try to reach modification, and here are some suggestions that I can use. Now, in the in-depth SAMR self-assessment, this is actually all built into the survey and the assessment that you take. But if you're doing the basic one and you do want some resources, you'll have to approach that by accessing this document. All right, so let's look at the in-depth SAMR self-assessment. When you come into this one's a little bit different because it definitely goes into greater depth, and your focus now is on a lesson, not your entire classroom. Now, again, this information is used for research purposes, but it's also very useful to you because you'll receive an editable Google Doc at the end of this self-assessment that will have all this information and all your lesson and tech tools and suggestions in it so that you can refer to at a later date. So you can come in, and it's really important that you put in your email address, because if you don't put in your email address, you will not get those results back. And you can put where you're located from, your school district. Again, it's up to you how much you want to provide, but it's mostly for yourself and for research. So what was the title of that original lesson that you gave and the content area? And then you'll go in and talk about your student objectives and lesson objectives and the tasks that you wanted your students to complete. So what is it that you wanted students to be able to learn, or what was the outcome that you wanted at the end? And then what are the different tasks that they're going to be asked to complete? Now this is thinking about your old lesson, because we're going to go in and start modifying that later. All right, so from here, if you want to learn more about SAMR, you can click yes, and it'll actually take you to a video and a graphic about SAMR. But if you already know enough, you can click no, and then you can go right into the self-assessment. Now in the self-assessment, you've got 6 different areas that you can assess. I'm not saying these are the only 6 areas that you can assess of your lesson, activity, or project, but it's a good starting point. And if you have other ideas on what parts of our lessons we could include, that would be great, because I'm always looking for ways to continue to improve this self-assessment. So let's say we want to assess our note-taking. And we get asked a question, how does note-taking look in your classroom? And again, think about it. How does it look the majority of the time? And specifically, how did it look in this lesson? Okay, so how did it look in this lesson? And maybe we just use digital tools to take notes. So we're not doing it on paper or notebooks anymore, but it's on Google Docs, Microsoft Word, Notability, or maybe other digital platforms. And when you click next, it gives you your results immediately. So it says select substitution to verify your current level of SAMR, and then select augmentation to verify your next level of SAMR. So the reason I ask you to click on this is kind of twofold. One, to really bring awareness of the fact of where you are and where you want to be. But then 2, also so that when we click on these results will show up in our self-assessment results that will get emailed to you, and you'll have access to look at that later. Now, this is a section that I'm really excited about, because it actually gives you suggestions to reach that next level that you can select and then use as you start redesigning your lesson. So it could be students will take notes using Google Apps. That's very similar to what we were saying before. But now they're going to actually share or use those commenting and suggesting features with other students. So it's taking it to that next level. Now you can also open up this link, which goes to that Google Doc I was showing you earlier with other suggestions. And you can go, well, these are good, but I'd actually rather try to come down here and do modification. And I like these features instead. And if you wanted to, you could select those, and then you could put it into the other. Or if you have your own other that you would like to do, then you can also put in your own ideas, which I love, because then I can get some of those ideas from other teachers, and I can start building that into the self-assessment. Then you can also select what are some helpful tech tools that you might want to use as you start going through and redesigning your lesson. Now, one thing that I wish I could do was hyperlink in here, but unfortunately that capability is not in Google Forms yet. And that was a good question somebody asked me recently, was if I don't know what these tools are, how do I know what they are? And my best answer right now is to Google it, which is a terrible answer, but I'm going to come in and start linking off in these resources so that you can access it from this menu, until hopefully one day Google will add in that hyperlinking feature into Forms, and then all my dreams will have come true. So from here, you'll choose what part of your lesson would you like to assess next. You do not have to assess all parts of your lesson. So maybe you just want to come in and go, okay, my lesson also includes presentations, so let's see where I'm at with that. And maybe your students, they create an interactive presentation through a digital display that engages the audience in the presentation. So then you come in and you verify that that's augmentation and you're working towards modification. Here are some tech tools you might try. Some suggestions, and then your tech tools. And after you go through that, you can continue on and go assess other parts of your lesson, or you can end the survey. So if you choose to end the survey, it will ask you if you want to review anything else. And if not, you can end the survey. And then if you would like to, you can also receive updates from BoostEDU. And then you submit your self-assessment. From there, your self-assessment results will be emailed to you, so I'll give it a moment for that to come in. And you want to keep those self-assessment results handy, and then come over to the lesson design portion and figure out, do you want to design your lesson from a Google form or a template? And so if you want to design it from a Google form, you can come in here and you can pick which method you want to start designing your lessons, and this will continue to grow over time. But right now we've got simple, very simple lesson plan design, and then also HyperDocs. And then that also is in a form, which will email you back your lesson plan, which is a great feature. So I can see our email arrived, and this is what I receive as the person who created the survey, but you guys will receive a Google Doc. And what's great about this is you'll see that it actually has your name in the title, and all your results are preloaded into this Google Doc. So note-taking is at substitution, presentations are at augmentation. When we come down, we can see that we've got our background information, our lesson information, and then when I go into note-taking, it will actually tell me, okay, so this is where I was, this is what I've been doing, here's where I'm at with SAMR, here's my next level, here are the suggestions, and this is what I'm going to try in my lesson, and the tech tools I'm going to use. Now this is your document. Feel free to come in and add notes and brainstorming, or delete out boxes that are unnecessary. For instance, if you didn't do anything on reading, you're welcome to come in and delete those out. And then when you go down, and we did presentations as well, we'll also see our information all showed up in here. And at the very bottom, there is a section for resources. And you can choose to go into lesson plan development, look at some different SAMR resources, or get community feedback from our Google and Facebook groups. And you can also quickly access information by this tab at the bottom, this kind of, I guess you could say, table of contents. When you click on that, it'll take you all the way back to the beginning or wherever it is that you want to go within that Google Doc. So those are our 2 SAMR self-assessments. And again, they're still in development, and I would love some feedback on that. But if you have any questions or any comments or any ideas, I would love to hear from you. Thank you.